Guys, Tucker is back. So can I just tell a little personal story here? You know, as you know, Tucker is a friend. Last night, I was texting him about something totally benign, something totally banal. In fact, it was something so stupid and like...
Meanwhile, his show had just launched.
Well, no, we were going to bed because we were 5 hours ahead and I didn't know. And so it was just on a night that I just happened to be texting him. And he's kept this like really close to the vest, obviously, all the crap that he's been dealing with Fox News. So I was just texting him something totally stupid. And then I wake up in the morning and I see... Tucker launched a brand new show and it has 45 million views by the time I woke up. By the time he went to bed, it probably had like 10 million.
So he didn't say like, oh, did you see my new show?
Tucker's not like that.
Nothing.
He's not like, hey, look at me. He's not like that kind of person. So I went to bed not even knowing that he had a new show. And then I wake up and it's at 45 million views. And I sent him a message. I said, holy crap, I was sending you something so banal last night and here you launching your show. Congratulations. And he said, it feels amazing to be back after 6 weeks. And he's glad to be back. And so he is back.
Is there part of you that watches this coverage, though, and says, we've been saying that for a long time? Like, feels like there's competition now for us? Or do you think it will make us better?
No, I mean, I always look up to Tucker. So I have great reverence for that. But I did see a comment on the video where it said, the one person said, man, I feel like a drug user that I've been waiting 1 month to get my dose of truth. It took me 1 month or whatever to get my truth.
Like, so I've been here all along.
No, but we do cover a lot of, I mean, I think we are kindred spirits in that. He's one of the only anti-war voices, was the only anti-war voice on mainstream media. And so when he was silenced, there are no anti-war voices in mainstream media anymore. And he was the only one.
Not a little jealous that he has 45 million views on that?
All right.
I'm just asking.
Oh yeah, I would love 45 million. We've got 2 million subscribers.
Okay.
I would love 45 million, but that's not the point.
The way I look at it is, it's like now there's more people getting the truth out. So it's like more people will come here and be like, oh, I saw Tucker say that. Or in his case, oh, I saw Redacted say that. So it's like you have two properties that you care about that are solidifying what's actually going on. So it's like, then it's easier to believe. So it's a really good thing.
Yeah, and it just will make us be better, you know.
Well, it elevates us, right?
Sure.
It elevates all of us, right? So I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled that independent media and Tucker Carlson is back. At this hour, I think it's at 85 million views. I think on an average night of his show, he would get about 2 to maybe 3, I think about 2 million views to 3 million.
About 3.5 was a really good night for him.
So 3.5 million on Fox. And the best night
that Fox would have.
Yeah.
No one else is touching that. And it still isn't.
So it's amazing. Anyway, I wanted to show you, because there's a few little Easter eggs here. I want to show you at least the introduction here of when he made his announcement last night. This is the first 2 minutes of his broadcast, and he does not hold back, going right after the warmongers and, of course, this phony proxy war in Ukraine. Watch.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. This morning, it looks like somebody blew up the Kakhovka Dam in southern Ukraine. The rushing wall of water wiped out entire villages, destroyed a critical hydropower plant, and as of tonight, puts the largest nuclear reactor in Europe in danger of melting down. So if this was intentional, it was not a military tactic, it was an act of terrorism. The question is, who did it? Well, let's see. The Kakhovka Dam was effectively Russian. It was built by the Russian government. It currently sits in Russian-controlled territory. The dam's reservoir supplies water to Crimea, which has been, for the last 240 years, home of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Blowing up the dam may be bad for Ukraine, but it hurts Russia more. And for precisely that reason, the Ukrainian government has considered destroying it. In December, the Washington Post quoted a Ukrainian general saying his men had fired American-made rockets at the dam's floodgate as a test strike. So really, once the facts start coming in, it becomes much less of a mystery what might have happened to the dam. Any fair person would conclude that the Ukrainians probably blew it up, just as you would assume they blew up Nord Stream, the Russian natural gas pipeline, last fall. And in fact, the Ukrainians did do that, as we now know. It's not like Vladimir Putin is anxious to wage war on himself. Oh, but that's where you're wrong, Mr. and Mrs. Cable News consumer. Vladimir Putin is exactly that sort of man, the sort of man who'd shoot himself to death in order to annoy you. We know this from the American media, which wasted no time this morning in accusing the Russians of sabotaging their own infrastructure. Bill Kristol, the man who once told us that Saddam Hussein was responsible for 9/11, immediately denounced Putin as a war criminal and even more savagely compared him to Donald Trump. The rest of the pundit class made similar, clearly coordinated noises. Putin did it! Putin did it! And their reasoning was simple. Putin is evil, and evil people do evil things purely for the dark joy of being evil. In this specific case, Putin attacked himself, which is the most evil thing you can do, and therefore perfectly in character for a man that evil. That was their explanation.
That's my favorite. Yeah. Putin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the news report from Spaceballs about Pizza the Hut. He's like, and he ate himself.
And he
to
ate
death.
himself to death. Yes. Now, in other news, in this clip, I want you to watch this next clip here because see if you can spot the most important moment. It's a little Easter egg hunt for you all. The key moment here. In fact, it's a nice jab at the very reason that he was pulled off the air at Fox, we suspect. I did a whole report on this a few months ago after he was pulled off the air, specifically why he was. And I believe this moment, see if you can spot this Easter egg specifically. He mentions it. And I think this clip says it all. Watch.
No one who's paid to cover these things seemed to entertain even the possibility it could have been the Ukrainians who did it. No chance of that. Ukraine, as you may have heard, is led by a man called Zelensky. And we can say for a dead certain fact that he was not involved. He couldn't have been. Zelensky is too decent for terrorism. Now, you see him on television, and it's true you might form a different impression. Sweaty and rat-like, a comedian turned oligarch, a persecutor of Christians, a friend of BlackRock. But don't believe your own eyes. Actually, Mr. Zelensky is a very good man. The best, really. As George W. Bush once noted, he is our generation's Winston Churchill. Of all the people in the world, our shifty, dead-eyed Ukrainian friend in the tracksuit is uniquely incapable of blowing up a dam. He's literally a living saint, a man in whom there is no sin. That's why Lindsey Graham is so attracted to him. They're just two good people, hanging out together and being good. And like all good people, when they meet in person, they spend a lot of time talking about killing people and laughing like friends do. Here's the pair last week.
Free or die.
Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
It's the best money we've ever spent.
Thank you so much.
No, it's...
The Russians are dying. It's the best money we've ever spent, Graham says. A smile spreads across his thin, quivering lips as he forms the words. He looks like a starving man contemplating a breakfast buffet. The aroma of death has aroused Lindsey Graham. Thanks so much, replies Zelensky. He feels the same way. See, there's nothing dark here. Just two middle-aged guys celebrating the killing of a population. They don't seem like the kind of people who'd enjoy flooding villages or starting a famine. And in any case, who cares if they are? It's really not your business. Your job is to support Ukraine. Watch Nikki Haley, a Republican candidate for president, explain this principle on CNN.
A win for Ukraine is a win for all of us. And for them to sit there and say that this is a territorial dispute, that's just not the case. To say that we should stay neutral, it is in the best interest of America. It's in the best interest of our national security for Ukraine to win. We have to see this through. We have to finish it.
See? It's very easy to understand. It is vitally important for you to support Ukraine because it's necessary for Ukraine to be supported by you. Your support is mandatory until it's finished, whatever it is, and whatever that means. So shut up and support Ukraine or else you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It's the misuse of the transitive property. A equals B, therefore B equals C.
Right.
A and C are the same thing in that equation. It makes no sense.
Did you guys spot the Easter egg? Many of you I see in the chat. Yeah, go ahead, Philip. Did you get it?
Well, to me, the big takeaway was BlackRock.
BlackRock.
Mention of BlackRock with that.
BlackRock.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I got it.
BlackRock.
Yep.
You got it. You got it. You got it. And many people in the chat got it as well. So Tucker, on his first show back, drops in this little Easter egg, Zelensky, and he's supported by BlackRock, the very people that took him off the air at Fox News after taking a large ownership position in Fox News Corporation.
Well, he clearly doesn't have a non-disparage.
I guess saying like, yeah. Can you say anything crappy about BlackRock? I mean, he was,
He's like, not signing that.
So they're there in Ukraine, shaking hands with Zelensky, buying up the entire country of Ukraine, and he calls them out like in his first episode. In this clip, here's the final clip I want to show you. Tucker gives some insights into why he was pulled off the air for covering stories that matter to people. If you cover stories that matter to people in the mainstream media, like if you're on Fox News, if you're on these other networks, what he's saying here is that you will be silenced. You cannot do those types of stories that we can do here on Redacted. Watch.
So if you're wondering why our country seems so dysfunctional, this is a big part of the reason. Nobody knows what's happening. A small group of people control access to all relevant information, and the rest of us don't know. We're allowed to yap all we want about racism, but go ahead and talk about something that really matters and see what happens. If you keep it up, they'll make you be quiet. Trust us. That's how they maintain control. When Western tourists first started traveling in large numbers to the Soviet Union in the early 1970s, they found that many Russians had a completely warped understanding of the United States. They thought that Americans lived in grinding poverty, in a state of perpetual race war, and were desperate to flee to the freedom and prosperity of the Eastern Bloc. They thought this because that's what they had been told. They had no way to know otherwise. The few Russians who understood what was really going on in the rest of the world had learned about it from listening to shortwave radio broadcasts, sometimes under the covers so the neighbors wouldn't hear. 50 years later, it is bewildering to consider the ironies here. We're the ones who live in ignorance now. The US government has managed to classify more than 1 billion so-called public documents. So at this point, we can't possibly know what our leaders are doing. We're not allowed to know. By definition, that is not a democracy. Yet it's fine with the media. Secrecy is a powerful tool of control. Stop asking how we got so rich. Here's another story about racism. Go eat each other. That's the program. That's how most of us now live here in the United States. Manipulated by lies, silenced by taboos. It is unhealthy and it's dehumanizing, and we're tired of it. As of today, we've come to Twitter, which we hope will be the shortwave radio under the blankets. We're told there are no gatekeepers here. If that turns out to be false, we'll leave. But in the meantime, we are grateful to be here. We'll be back with much more very soon.
I like his fly fishing poles back there. Big fly fisherman.
Yeah.
And I like the fly fishing
I thought
motif.
those were pool cues.
No, he's like in his downtime. Yeah, he spends he ties flies. Like that's how. Anyway, glad he's back. Thrilled to see where this goes. Thank goodness we have an extra, I don't know, the OG sort of back and an independent voice that was in the mainstream media, the only anti-war voice in the mainstream media that is now independent. And you can see the reach here. Yeah. Now, people are pointing out that Twitter counts views as impressions. I'm not sure. Is that the case? So 85 million views are not necessarily views. They are impressions.
So they did have impressions on the tweet before, but they removed that, and now it's just video views. So there's no tweet impressions anymore. So I don't know, if they're combining the two or what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll be transparent about it at some point. They're going to have to be, because that's going to affect marketing and everything.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Now, of course, there are sort of whiny voices feeling like he should not have a platform, he should not be listened to. And,
Taylor Lorenz at the Washington
feeling
Post.
like this is how the mighty have fallen. Like, ooh, you're on the internet now instead of,
cable,
on old broadcast TV. But again, I want to make the point that we made when he was taken off the air is that the more anti-war voices we have, the better. The more voices that say things that make people want to actually discuss things instead of cancel them, the better. Even if you don't like the things that he has said, you should champion free speech because it's lazy to just cancel the voices you don't want to hear.
Right.
And dangerous.
And dangerous. Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.